All right. Let's give a big round of applause for Meg Whitman. Come on up. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being such a great showcase customer, a great partner, and just a true friend.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything that DocuSign has done for Hewlett-Packard and now Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and HP Inc. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate it. You know, you were on a panel on digital transformation at the World Economic Forum, and you were talking about that the future belongs to the fast. That resonates. What were you meaning by that?
Yeah. So technology is changing at lightning speed. You see this every day. I've been in the technology business for many years, and our industry goes through these big tectonic plate shifts every 10 to 15 years. You think back mainframe to client server to Web 1.0, where you and I had a front seat at the revolution, to web services and mobility. We are on the cusp of another huge change. And I think it is akin to the change that we saw from the mainframe to the client server. Every industry is a technology industry. Agriculture is a technology industry. Healthcare is a technology industry. And the disruptive change that is happening is faster than I think anyone in our industry has seen. And so if you are not fast as a company, you are likely to be disrupted by someone who has newer technology, less costly, more agile. And you just look right here in San Francisco, what has happened with Uber and the Taxi Association. The taxi companies in San Francisco had 7 years to react to Uber, and they didn't. And you can imagine what happened, right? The head of the Taxi Association sees what's happening. Well, maybe it'll be a fad. Maybe this won't really be a thing. Turns out, then they know what's happening. And they go, okay, we got to get a mobile app. Right. And he calls up his CIO and he says, hey, we need a mobile app. And the CIO says, we're still on CB radios. And as you know, the major taxi association in San Francisco just went bankrupt earlier this year. So everyone is at risk of disruption. And so the future, I think, really does belong to the fast.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. So tell us a little bit how HP is helping their customers go fast.
Yeah. Well, first is we had to get smaller to go faster ourselves, which was really the reason that we split the company into 2 Fortune 50 companies. Can you imagine 2 Fortune 50 companies embedded in HP? And so we had to get smaller, and we had to modernize our own infrastructure. And in many ways, that's where DocuSign came in. Okay, how can we take paper processes, make them digital? How can we be more customer-friendly, more employee-friendly? And as you well know, we now have 60 plus, almost 70 use cases deeply embedded into HP. Everything from employee letters to onboarding VARs to HPE financial services lease agreements. And frankly, you were a part of us getting faster ourselves. And we obviously modernized our own infrastructure and took out a lot of cost. And just really focused on, okay, if we can be fast, that will help our customers. And then organized our whole company around 4 customer needs. I think strategy is more about the art of exclusion. What is it that you are not going to do? Because I'm sure you see it at DocuSign, everyone wants to do everything, be everything to everybody, and you simply can't.
Right.
So we really focused on 4 areas. How do we help customers transform to a hybrid infrastructure? How do we help customers secure their digital assets? How do we enable workplace productivity? And how do we empower a data-driven organization? And so we line up our infrastructure, our software, and services around a solution sale. We measure outcomes now for customers in how much money did you save, how much agility, how fast can you provision your infrastructure, what's your risk levels in terms of security. So we had to organize ourselves around outcome-based selling as opposed to my server's faster than the other guy's server.
Right. So one of the things you mentioned backstage is, hey, it's much easier to run a company when it's half the size. It's like, is it half the problems and does it take you half the time?
So it is. Now I'm asking myself, why isn't it taking me half the time? I'll have to say, I think, as the technology industry speeds up, as we were talking about, I think focus is incredibly important. And I live the value of focus every single day. I went from really being responsible for 7 businesses to 4. And so I'm spending a lot more time with customers, a lot more time going deep onto those businesses. And the company has to stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah.
So when we did everything from, in the morning, I would go from, our inkjet printers, what you might have at your home, to the afternoon to a Superdome Integrity X server running SQL. These two things are not like each other. And so that's been freeing in many ways. And, the printing and PC market is under challenges. Had we been together, there's a natural thing that happens at these big companies is a cross-subsidization, right? You're in it together, you got to deliver the EPS.
Right.
And each company now is having to get a cost structure and a go-to-market that is uniquely suited for the two businesses. So it's been fantastic. It is not taking half the time, but it is half the problems.
So let me ask you this. When you split the two companies, what role did DocuSign play in that process?
Well, this was the single biggest separation that had ever taken place in world business, because it wasn't a carve out. You read about companies that carve out divisions. This was effectively standing up two new Fortune 50 companies. And so you can imagine what this was like. And DocuSign, first of all, what I learned about SaaS applications is it is way easier. I mean, we sort of called you guys and said, hey, listen, we're separating the company. Can you separate the instances of DocuSign? And I think it took a couple of days. Think about what it took us to separate some of the big ERP systems, months. And this was days.
Right.
The second thing, you forget about the little details in a separation. So we had to issue about 300,000 offer letters to employees, because the employees were either going to go to HP Inc. or to Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and legally you have to actually reissue the offer letters. In some countries, like China, it had to be done in person. Can you imagine, with a chop? So we had signing parties. But the rest of the world, 233,000 letters were issued and signed by employees through DocuSign.
Wow.
And it saved us tens of millions of dollars, months of time, because people would get their offer letter, they'd read it, they'd decide to join or not join, sign, boom, and then we could keep track of who had signed the letter and who hadn't. So it seems in some ways like a small thing. The problem is we had hundreds of these kinds of issues, and you helped us through many, many, many of them.
Wow, that's great. How about that for a DocuSign story, huh? So we recommend you just split your company in two and use DocuSign. So tell me, how are both companies running after the separation?
Yeah, so actually very well. So Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, which is the enterprise customer of servers, storage, networking, software, and services, we've had now our third consecutive quarter of growth in constant currency, which is a big deal for a company that was declining high single digits for a number of years. And you can feel the energy and the enthusiasm. And the customers have reacted very well to this, because think about it, in classic business definition, really printing and PCs is a different business.
Right.
In the enterprise, the person who buys PCs and printers is typically different than the person who's making the data center decision. Different competitors, different cost structures. HP Inc. is a scale volume business. We sell 6 PCs a second. While we've been talking here, we've shipped tons of PCs and printer cartridges, all good. And but Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is a solutions business, so we've been able to sort of get into a rhythm that is perfect for our customers. Yeah. And we're faster, we're smarter. You can see the pace of innovation picking up, and the stock price on Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is up 47%. So we like that too.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Round of applause for that. You don't see Meg Whitman in fits, I can tell you that. You're giving them to your competition.
Exactly.
It's better to give than to receive.
It absolutely is. And I think, it's interesting. In some ways, this feels a bit like eBay to me, at a very different scale, but it is a chance for the rebirth of two companies.
Right.
And as I said, we had to get smaller to get faster.
Yep.
And as I said, we had to think about every process that we did, how we could do it more efficiently, how we could really digitize the entire company. And I heard you mention John Hinshaw earlier. He deserves a huge amount of credit, because it all starts with IT. And so it's been a really interesting journey. I don't think we are completely done yet. There's more work to do, but we have captured hearts and minds of the senior people, of the people who are coming into the company, and we still this is still an enormous company. We still have 200,000 employees. So we've got to make sure that every employee in every country, in every role, whether it's R&D or customer facing, is thinking about how they can do things that are better for customers.
Yes. Well, let me ask you this, Meg. What excites you most about the strategic partnership with HPE and also with HPI?
Yeah. So listen, you have embedded yourself. DocuSign has embedded themselves into every process at HP. And I think there's more great things to come. I mean, I was thinking about it as I was driving down here because I was looking at all the use cases. Can you imagine 70 plus use cases? I was joking with Keith earlier. You're practically running Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. So like, don't screw up. I think we need to think through what is the next generation of how we can digitize our workflows and what role can you play in that to help us. But we still do too many things that are paper-based. We still have too many handoffs, you can imagine, between our go-to-market versus our finance organization versus our legal organization. And every handout takes time because every handoff takes time. I particularly love what we've done together in onboarding our value-added resellers. Now all signed with DocuSign, all recorded with DocuSign, has taken days out of that process. And back to the future belongs to the fast, hours, minutes, days matter. And what qualified for fast even 5 years ago, I bet you're seeing this as well, would not even qualify for the race today.
Right.
And honestly, if we can take days out of our processes, then we're fitter, it will cost less, and I think there's a lot more that we can do together. So, and I think we've enjoyed being a bit of a lab for you. I think we were the largest instantiation of DocuSign, and maybe still are, but certainly was when we did it.
Yes. And I mean, you guys have just been such a great showcase account in terms of modeling the way for our joint customers. And, I look at it as a 60-60 partnership for sure.
Yeah, well, it's very nice. And we've learned a lot from you. So it's been a nice, probably learn from us and vice versa.
Oh, always. We're a learning machine. Learn like you're going to live forever. So one last question, because you've got a great diagonal slice here of Fortune 500 companies, startups, you've got CEOs, CIOs, you've got everybody at every level. What advice would you give them in terms of their digital transformation and utilizing DocuSign?
Yeah. So I think there's no reason not to get started right now. In big companies, there's always 1,000 reasons why we can't do this right now. And sometimes the CEOs and the CIOs actually have to say, you know what, we're going to do it, and we're going to figure it out. And I'm a big believer in experimentation. If you can't roll DocuSign worldwide, okay, start in a country, start in a vertical, start in a function. And sometimes we have to do that at HP. We roll DocuSign to over 300,000 people at once, but you can also experiment. And these big companies, they are more comfortable if they know that they don't have to go all the way to Bright, that if they can experiment and learn. And my advice is to just get started, whether it's DocuSign or other areas that you want to modernize and digitize your companies, just go. And it is your responsibility to push. Whether you are a CEO, a VP of Ops, whatever it happens to be, you have an obligation to push and almost force your company into the next generation, because change is hard, right? Change management is the hardest thing that we do. Sure. And when you are a big, proud, iconic company like many of you in this room work for, your employees probably say, what's not to like? Okay, this has been a pretty good run. 75-year run at HP, and yet, as I said, the world is changing at a speed that I have not seen in my 35-year career. And existing legacy companies will be disrupted if you are not fit for purpose to take advantage of the disruption and be a fast follower, or better yet, disrupt the industry yourself. And I think that need to push and experiment is greater than it has ever been.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a fantastic role model. And let me ask the audience to imagine this. Can you ever imagine Meg saying to her board, well, we can't challenge the status quo. That would be challenging the status quo. I mean, so when you go back to your respective companies, you detect that, I want you to think of Meg, absolutely one of the greatest CEOs of our time and a dear, dear friend.
Well, you're very nice.
Thank you,
Thank
Meg.
you very much.
Give it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.